Good afternoon, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Georg Galis. I'm the CFO and one of the managing directors here at ESMT Berlin. And it's my great pleasure to welcome you here to this ESMT Open Lecture with Charley Moore, who will present on the topic, the consumerization of justice is here, the future of legal tech and rocket lawyer. So very much looking forward to your remarks. But before starting with that, let me briefly tell you a little bit about our school, this building, and this very room, because I reckon not everybody's aware of that. ESMT Berlin, here our school, was founded in 2002 by 25 global companies and institutions to provide Germany with a truly international business school, which we didn't really have in those days. We offer degree programs such as Master MBA, Master in Business Administration, Executive MBA, and also Executive Education programs. For participants from all over the world, actually the vast majority of the participants in our programs and in our executive education programs and degree programs are foreign. So it's only a minority of the students here are German. That's one of the reasons why we do all this here in English. In 2006, then, as you know, the ESMT campus here opened in this building, which is, as you know, the former State Council building, Staatsratsgebäude, of the former German Democratic Republic. So what was once the center of socialist Germany is now home to an international business school where students actually are taught market economy. This room, even more, is the former diplomats' chamber, which is now used as an auditorium, as you can see, for students and lectures such as this. In this room, diplomats and foreign visitors to the former GDR used to be accredited. Now, that went the following way. If you can imagine, this door was open because that door was the access to the office, actually, of Mr. Honecker. So if you want to go through there, you will be passing through his former office, well, Walter Ulbricht, and then afterwards, most of the time, Honecker. And then the diplomats entered from that door, and then they met here, you know, and then they did some small talk, and then they separated again. So it was a diplomats' chamber where Mr. Honecker welcomed diplomats to East Germany. Later on, after unification, this office was used as the Bundeskanzleramt before the new Bundeskanzleramt was opened over there, as you know, close to the Reichstag today. And this very room was the cabinet room of the cabinet of the reunited Germany. So if you will, for a couple of years from 1999 to 2001, Germany was governed actually from this room. And our Deputy Director of the Digital Society Institute, who's going to moderate today, Martin Schallbruch, just told me 5 minutes ago, and I don't know why he didn't tell me before, that he actually participated in these cabinet meetings of the German cabinet. Oh, yes, you did. Well, okay, but you did once. Anyway, so, you know, he was like accompanying, I understand, the former Minister Otto Schily, so when he went to the cabinet meeting. So this is a room with some history, and we're very happy that we have it today as a lecture room. We are doing this series of open lectures focusing on questions of current intellectual concern since 2009. And as part of this series, I'm very happy that today we have Charley Moore as our guest. Charley Moore, who has a profound knowledge in entrepreneurship, law, and finance. Charley is the founder and CEO of Rocket Lawyer, not Rocket Internet, Rocket Lawyer. One of the world's most popular legal services. Rocket Lawyer operates globally and maintains offices around the world such as San Francisco, London, Paris, Madrid, and Poland, to name just a few. He set an intention to change standards with Rocket Law by, as he says, making legal services affordable, simple, and available to more people than ever. Due to his experience with the challenges and rewards of innovation, he's now going to share his vision of the future of legal tech with us, using his own company, Rocket Lawyer, as an example. Before I pass the stage to Charley Moore, I would like to ask Martin, who knows the room, as we know, to give a bit more of an introduction to the topic of today's speech.
Thank you, Georg. Thank you, Georg. Welcome from my side. My name is Martin Schallbruch. I'm the Deputy Director of IT Institute. The Digital Society Institute was founded more than a year ago by the ESMT and a group of major German companies to have a research institute in the middle of Berlin as an independent voice on questions of technology and society. And we are performing interdisciplinary research on these questions from a legal perspective, from technological perspective, societal perspective, and of course, economical perspectives. 30 years ago, I studied computer science and law in parallel, and at this time, there was huge hope in technology. Technology was seen as a means to automatically solve legal problems. And I was personally conducting some research projects, participating in research projects where we try to model legal questions to make it programmable and to make it automatically resolvable. After this period in the 80s and 90s, this period of hope, we had a period of disappointment, a huge period of disappointment in the 90s about the progress that was possible with technology and legal problems. Especially, for example, natural language understanding was not good enough. So modeling was possible, but technology was not good enough. And we had at that time, no business models, no ideas what kind of services would be suitable for the legal profession. Now, the time has changed, and legal technology is getting more and more important. And that was the reason we invited you, Charley Moore. Charley Moore is one of the pioneers in legal technology, and he has founded 9 years ago a very successful, one of the most successful companies in the United States on the field of legal tech, Rocket Lawyer. Georg mentioned it. And I'm very happy that you're here with us and that you share your thoughts and share your ideas. And of course, we all want to learn from you, to learn from your experiences in the United States, in the UK, and in Europe for the future of legal technology. So, Charley, the floor is yours.
After that introduction, I am certainly going to disappoint, so I'll apologize. Can't be any better. While he pulls up the presentation, boy, I am so happy to be here, and you have a beautiful city. It's not my first time in Berlin, but you're welcome for bringing this wonderful weather with us. We'll take credit for that. But it was a glorious day in the city of Berlin, and I want to thank my hosts. You've been a fabulous host. I can't live up to the introduction, as I've already said. Also, Victoria and Frederick, are they here? Victoria, thank you so much. I see you moved over there, but Victoria's been working with my colleague Abra for several weeks, making sure that everything was taken care of. So here we are, and so thank you again for bringing this off. Now, before starting, I have to make a confession. I am a recovering high-priced lawyer. If I go to the next slide, Rocket Lawyer was really started in reaction. You know, I grew up working at gas petrol stations. That was my dad's business, and then I went off to law school, UC Berkeley, among other things, and started working for folks who could pay a lot of money for my services, and it was a blessing. I got a chance to work with Yahoo when it was a tiny little startup with 3 people, just Jerry and David and a guy named Tim Brady and saw how quickly a good idea could turn into, terrific execution, but with excellent counsel. Somebody basically screen scraped the original Yahoo directory right after Jerry and David had gotten funding from Mike Moritz at Sequoia, and somebody had just scraped the whole directory and stolen it from him. And back then, 96 maybe, 95 even, people didn't even know if there was copyright protection online. But lucky for them, they had, humbly, really good lawyers that were really expensive, and they could afford that. And as a result, the rest is history. But most folks around the world don't have that opportunity. They can't afford fancy, expensive lawyers. They just can't. And so as a result, there is a huge access to justice problem everywhere. So at Rocket Lawyer, we set out to solve that. Like it says here, we set out to make the law affordable and convenient enough for everybody to be able to access. The majority of people who use Rocket Lawyer everywhere that we operate have never even hired a lawyer before. Before we existed, the law was simply out of reach. If these people had a bad marriage, they either stayed in it or they lost their house in some cases to get out of that bad marriage, or an abusive situation, or, because we help people with, all kinds of situations, really hopeful, happy stuff, like starting a business, to really tragic situations, like starting a business. That's a joke. Business is hard, right? This is a business school. If anybody knows that, it's entrepreneurs. So we've been fortunate along the way, trying to keep our focus on using technology to solve this really vexing problem of law costs too much. And so we need to make it, anybody who wants to democratize access to legal services needs to basically do a couple things that the rest of my talk's going to be around, but you've heard kind of all of it now, is you got to make it more affordable. You got to bring that high cost down, and then you have to make it easier to use. I'm going to spend most of the rest of the talk talking about making it easy to use, but we're also really fortunate to have some people behind the company. Google Ventures, everybody knows Google. They know how to make easy software, and so they've been a real partner for us. Matter of fact, guys, you may know names like John Zaratsky just wrote a book about user interface and design. John actually, after Google Ventures invested in Rocket Lawyer, came in and worked with a team of designers with us for about 3 months on site. We were a much smaller little startup. We had maybe 30 employees or something, and John actually came in, and we're in the book, right? The work that he did with us to sort of look at the issue of how do you make law, which is really complex, simple. And so that's what we try to do, make it simple. When I started the company, legal sites had a lot of words, all right? And Rocket Lawyer is for people who don't read. It's for people who don't read. People who don't read a lot deserve justice. And that's most people, by the way. Most people, that's how they operate. Okay, so let's get into it. You'll see these like throughout. We try these people. These are all real folks, and you'll see them again in the presentation. But Brendan and Cassandra, UK, did their prenup on Rocket Lawyer. Lawrence, another one of our UK customers, and then Brian, who's an entrepreneur in the United States, one of my customers. Jeremy has been a terrific partner. He was literally the first lawyer that I met. So I'm here in Berlin, and I've been going and meeting lawyers and meeting folks who might want to get involved with making legal services more affordable for German people. So Jeremy was the first UK lawyer I met with. His office is up in Sheffield. I'm really proud of the fact that his law practice is a lot bigger now than it was when we started. We've been in the UK, as I said, for 5 years, and we've now got a profitable legal service operating in the UK. That's something I'm really proud of, and it's because, attorneys who were innovative like Jeremy. So the Rocket Lawyer didn't take any business away from any lawyers. We actually made this lawyer a much wealthier person by getting involved, and he offers really affordable legal services. He offers low-cost divorces. He works with small businesses, on and on and on. Okay, so now I'm getting into the meat of it, where I'm going to start talking about user experience, all right? Times have changed. You know, back in the day, they used to talk about big iron, right? They talked about, they used these IBM mainframes. The Yale, one of the really cool things is the Yale, one of the Yale dorms just got changed. The name just got changed. You know, in the United States, we have this big thing going with Confederate statues and everything. They just renamed one of the Yale dorm buildings to the Grace Hopper building instead of the guy that John C. Calhoun before that. Grace Hopper was one of the pioneers of early computing in the United States, was a Navy officer. I'm a former Navy officer, but this is the kind of stuff that Grace Hopper did. It was important, but computing was all about business, all about government, all about institutional use of computers. That's not how things are anymore. Today, computers have been brought home. This is an Apple IIc, obviously Steve Jobs. This was the first, I'm dating myself, how old I am, but this is a computer I learned how to code on. And so, you know, I learned basic programming on an Apple IIc, and then, again, I'm old, I graduated up to COBOL, if anybody remembers any of that, you know, pre-law school. But what's gone on since the Apple IIc, and really it was that computer that really got deeply into the home, and then obviously the Mac, is consumerization of everything. Consumerization is happening to everything. The enterprise companies are now the companies that got scale on the consumer side. What am I talking about? Look at Amazon. Amazon started out as a bookseller, but guess what? When you sell books all around the world, you do all that e-commerce, logistics, warehousing, user interfaces all around the world, you become a master of scale, which is what Reid Hoffman is calling his podcast now, the founder of LinkedIn. You become a master of scale. And as a master of scale, now these consumer companies are taking over the enterprise. Amazon Web Services is what Netflix runs on. It's what Dropbox runs on. It's what lots of big companies. In fact, Amazon has over 50% of the whole cloud computing market, the whole cloud hosting market, and it started from selling books online. Similarly, Rocket Lawyer, we do more volume than any law firm in the world right now. So, and I say that very humbly. I say that as just a matter of fact. There's no law firm in the world that creates more than 1 million legal documents a month, and we do an order of magnitude more than that a month. There's no law firm in the world that provides more consultations, legal consultations a month than Rocket Lawyer. In the internet world, we're still a relatively small company. You know, we have about 230 employees, et cetera. But in terms of law, our scale is really big already. And when you realize the potential of consumerizing access to justice, well, that's one of that opportunity is profound. Why? Because every room I ever go to, every single person now, like 2006 would be 0 people who have smartphones. 2017, there's nobody in the room who doesn't have one. In fact, if you don't have a smartphone and you're courageous enough, raise your hand. Right? Everybody does. And so because everybody has a smartphone, everybody is familiar with the smartphone user experience. Everybody. There's nobody who isn't. We want consistent user experiences at work and at home. This is why the BlackBerry, nobody has one. If anybody has a BlackBerry, raise your hand. Maybe a couple of people would have that, but very few, right? Because people went in and demanded, nobody wants to learn multiple different interactions with a machine. We tend to learn one that we like, that matters, and then the rest of, we expect everything else to work that way. So that's a lot of what I'm going to continue to talk about. But, you know, no mistake, the legal UI is clunky and it doesn't work very well. And until we get the legal UI, the UI in front of, I'm not talking about eliminating lawyers or anything like that, anything as dramatic as that. What I'm talking about is improving the UI to law, the UI to justice. And so, yes, Snapchat. Snap, I think they're up to close to 200 million monthly users. These 200 million monthly users of Snap, they know how to apply filters. They know how to, of course, swipe right, swipe left, up and down. They already know how to do all of that stuff. You don't have to teach them those behaviors. What you should do is build your application to take advantage of the fact that 200 million plus people already know how to do all that stuff and expect to be able to do it. And that's exactly what we do. Here's another example, Tinder. Look, I have a ring on my finger. I do not use Tinder. Don't make it seem like I do. However, Tinder, swipe right? Swipe right. What are people doing when they're shopping for lawyers? Same thing. They're trying to find the right match. There's a lot that we can learn from applications like that. Okay, I'm not kidding on that one. You folks are laughing. Netflix, right? Netflix recommendations of movies. If you did this, you might want to do that, right? That's some serious intelligence going on, and obviously that's what attorneys do. We have loads of data, right? So these are the kinds of experiences that people are having with their machines every day, multiple times a day. Why would we expect them to expect a different experience with their legal service? So the point that I'm trying to make is the enterprise, the serious applications that are going to achieve scale, that are going to achieve radical utilization, are the ones that have learned these lessons of consumerization. Okay, a good example of that is Slack. So this is actually the Rocket Lawyer. This is our Slack in implementation. And how many folks have used Slack? Actually, quite a few people have used Slack. So here, these are our Slack channels. Of course, this one's our random channel. And so now, when you use Slack, you are taking experiences that people love in their personal life, and you're applying them to work. And people actually love to post cat pictures at work, and it increases productivity when people have tools like that. People like to use emoticons and little love emoticons and likes and all that good stuff. So that's how people like to interact. And Slack has done a very good job, and we hope to do more, to bring more of that into the legal profession. So now I'm going to switch gears, and I'm going to talk specifically about law. Again, and I'm getting serious, but to just restate the problem, right? Justice is out of reach. And I give a definition here: fair administration of law and authority. The fair administration of law and authority. I've yet to come into a room of regulators, of lawyers, of any sort of fair-minded folks who say they disagree with that mission, right? To deliver the fair administration of law and authority. But the reality is that the user interface we have doesn't come close to achieving that. Because around the world, while wealthy people and organizations can hire expensive lawyers, and the poor often qualify for legal aid, although legal aid is being cut a lot, as you know, there's over 1 billion middle-class families, small businesses that can't get the legal help they need. Now, there's been a lot of energy and investment that's gone into the legal back office. In fact, the majority of the investment, and this goes to some of the things Martin was talking about, but the majority of the investment in legal tech has been in the back office. It's been practice management, and it's been obviously research and analytics around legal research and things like that, billing systems for lawyers, et cetera. This is an infographic that I got from a company called LawGeeks, by the way. This is not one that we made. I was very impressed with it and decided to talk about it. And so this is the sort of a newer, more current landscape of the legal back office, especially from an AI perspective, because everybody's talking about artificial intelligence and is artificial intelligence going to replace lawyers, so on and so forth. When I took a look at this, though, what really jumped out at me is, in fact, almost all of these solutions are geared not toward replacing lawyers, but enabling lawyers and augmenting lawyers. And the other thing that I took away is they're really not, these solutions really aren't focused on improving the access that people have to justice, which again, remember what I said is about lowering the cost. In fact, most of these solutions are really targeted at making lawyers more profitable. And article in the New York Times in May of this year, where one of the lawyers I used to work with at Wilson Sonsini was talking about, John Yoon was talking about, look, my hourly rate's only gone up from $400 an hour to $1,000 an hour, right? He told the New York Times. That's the reality of legal tech. And some of these are wonderful solutions for the back office. But as I get to on the next one, the question I ask is, so Lex Machina, great company, founded by, now I'm having a break, Stanford, Mark Limley. God, if this is on and Mark and I did that, he would really get mad at me. I'd see it on Facebook tomorrow. Founded by, the brilliant Mark Limley. So yeah, I fixed it. And run by Josh Becker, who's a good friend of mine also. Great company, solving problems, applying analytics to, where should I file my case? Where am I likely to get the best outcome? How does my opposing counsel tend to execute a case? Do they settle? Do they settle early? Do they tend to go to trial, et cetera? All really great stuff, analyzing tons of data, being able to provide decision support and analytical help to lawyers. But the question that I do ask when you look at this map is, how does it make regular folks' lives better? Because today, most people avoid getting the legal help they need. With all that back office technology. These are figures from the UK. 56% delay getting legal services or try to handle it themselves. The number one reason is cost. The second reason is it's too complicated. When you combine cost and complexity, you sort of get to the whole nub of the problem. And so, how do we fix that? Well, the front office UI is where the change you feel happens, right? We feel it when we are standing in a long line for government services. That for, the worst place you can possibly be on, and I'm sorry, all the DMV fans, but the worst place you could possibly be is the Department of Motor Vehicles on any given day in California, right? And it's probably the same everywhere, okay? Going to court. I have another slide I'm not going to show you today, but kind of go and show how similar going to court is today to when Cicero went to the forum. It's really the same when you don't have an ability to geo-shift, when you don't have an ability to have asynchrony in terms of time, when my time has to be on your time, right? You lose so much efficiency and value, so that we certainly can improve in terms of justice and efficiency this physical court presence that is so has been a part of Anglo-Roman law for 2,000 years. So what's better? Well, natural language is better. And natural language is actually here. We all carry it around in our pocket. It works well. I practiced my talk by taking my speaker's notes and playing them back using a natural language player before I came up here today. Siri, Amazon Echo, that stuff really works now. How much of that stuff, again, when I say the change you feel when I talk about the legal tech, is it improving people's lives? How much of that stuff do people use in law today? Very little, very little. But they will. This is a screenshot of our product, which is an electronic signature product. I'm very proud of the fact that it is very widely used at this point, but we can do so much more in terms of what is a signature. A signature is simply evidence of identity. It's evidence of identity that's then used as evidence of assent to something, agreement to something. But it's evidence of identity. There's a lot better evidence of identity that technology can provide these days, and I guarantee you we are working on it, because that's the front end and that's the change that people are going to feel. So the rest of this for only about 3 minutes or so, and then I think Martin, if we want to have a chat, and I really would love to have a conversation with you, is just again a feel for Rocket Lawyer. So Rocket Lawyer is based on a patented invention. The idea was to make it really easy for people using document assembly technology to create legal documents in the cloud, to sign them, to be completely paperless. But really importantly, what the invention that we patented was bringing lawyers to that party. So making it possible, I call it do it with me law. Before we started, there was do it yourself, download legal forms or have non-lawyers doing more legal work. I didn't really think that was the most helpful way to solve this access to justice gap. I thought the better way was to provide tools to make lawyers efficient enough so that they could work with people and provide their expertise. So that is the invention we patented. So I call it do it with me law. And so you do some of it, your lawyer does some of it. Everybody's got computers in their pockets at all times now, connected with the same network. That's what was essentially different in 2008 when we started versus maybe the time when Martin was talking about. Everybody wasn't connected to the same network with the same user interfaces. And lastly, we also have some technology around dispute resolution. So key to it is that you can have a lawyer in your pocket. You can ask a lawyer a 600-character question about anything, anytime, goes into the system. You'll get a response back within one business day. You'll have an opportunity to rate your experience with the attorney so that we are constantly improving the quality of advice that you get from our attorney network. In terms of documentation, as I said, there's a more than 40 million, well north of 40 million legal documents been created. We have about a total of close to 18 million registered users now with Rocket Lawyer, folks with Rocket Lawyer accounts, and over about half of those folks have incorporated their businesses with us and are using Rocket Lawyer for business purposes. The remainder use Rocket Lawyer for mostly family and some individual legal needs, which takes me to, I think, one of the best ways that we have been able to democratize access to legal services has been to have it come from the employers. And so over 100,000 employees now receive Rocket Lawyer as a benefit of their employment. Some of the companies that offer it are Google, and Snap actually is one of our customers. So every Snap employee gets a Rocket Lawyer account, and to do their estate planning, to do real estate, whatever they need, they have a lawyer whenever they need one because they work for Snap. So good for them. Here's one of our customers. I don't actually know if TuneIn Radio is in Europe. No? Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay, good. Very good. Okay, so some TuneIn customers. So TuneIn is another Rocket Lawyer customer. So this isn't revolutionary at this point. Every employee gets an account, which really changes everything because they know where to turn. I mean, I want to see that happen for the masses of people. Again, for important things. If everybody deserves, if somebody, sues you and you need to fight back, they shouldn't be able to bully you just because they have access to a lawyer, can afford one, right? And if you need to enforce your rights, you should be able to. You should be able to. In fact, let me see what this next one says. Yeah, I'm just going to, the point of all of this, I guess, is something that I said at a similar talk at the American Bar Association conference in Chicago, which is, look, if you can't afford a lawyer, if you can't afford legal services, you don't live in a democracy. So maybe to stimulate some of the conversation, this idea of using, artificial intelligence, using technology to get more people access to legal advice, I think has, as I think about it, it's got a few phases, right? So we talked about the back office phase, which is basically improving the legal office, the lawyer's office, improving, making it more efficient. I think that phase of AI is underway. The next phase, I think, is a phase where you're getting sort of augmented advice, right? The attorneys are using it. You're getting augmented advice, but it's still sort of the same regulatory regime. The next phase is one where people truly get adjudication with a machine. There is no human intervention in terms of the delivery of justice. And when I say it that way, I bet we all can think of examples where, that would be pretty efficient, and actually it would reduce a lot of load and burden off of overloaded, overburdened legal systems. But that's a political matter. And so at the end of the day, the rules belong, right, in a democracy, belong to the people. And so if ever there's a situation where it makes sense to change the rules, well, I think people are going to have to decide that it matters enough to them. So I think it's a little bit premature for lawyers to get all bent out of shape about phase 3, which is really going to be a political matter. But I will end with what I said before. If you can't afford justice, if you can't afford a lawyer, you don't live in a democracy. And I think there will come a time when people recognize that, and that ultimately be the driver of technology adoption. So thank you very much.
So thank you, Charlie. I think we have now a lot of time
Pleasure.
For your questions and for discussion. And I would like you all to prepare some questions. And I think at the beginning, let me start with one question. I just participated 4 or 5 weeks ago, a legal tech conference here in Germany. And it was like you described. The most presentations were about problem solving, about AI in the back office, analyzing a lot of documents and so on. And the overall aspect was, if we take AI and if we analyze more documents and if you take more court decisions into view, we get a more specific, a more problem-specific solution. And you're giving a complete different view, and you told us that it's more about user experience, it's more about the user interface, but the user who is using the Rocket Lawyer interface isn't the user, the typical Rocket Lawyer customer also looking for a very particular solution of the problem and wants a very broad analysis of all legal documents.
Yeah, that's true. But until you solve, so users give us lots of data. We have to be good stewards of data. Lots of it is it's obviously personal, private, etc. So we have to be good stewards of data and protect privacy, which we do. But because the user interface is welcoming and it's direct to the consumer, of the service, as opposed to most of those back office, the actual consumer of the service is not providing the data. It's a lot, and it's really valuable, it's really useful. So I guess my thesis is really, until law has mass adoption of digital solutions, it's really never going to reach its potential in terms of providing what the back office wants to provide, right? Because it just doesn't have the data. The data isn't there. It seems like there's lots of data, but there really isn't. I mean, there's vastly more data if you look at these other, at some of the other examples that I provided. When you think about the fact that literally, there's almost 100% market penetration of Amazon Prime in the United States. Almost 100%. Almost everybody has an Amazon Prime account. So the amount of data that Amazon has versus Walmart, which is Walmart's got all the back office systems, but the UX on the front is nowhere near as good, and as a result, they're very far behind. So that's really my point. I think the promise in the next wave of legal innovation, like these other categories, has got to come at the front end.
Okay. That's the first question from the audience. I think you raised your hand. No? Yes.
Hey, good afternoon. I'd like to know what your relationship to government is, because government is the one who gives the resources to you. Government makes the laws. Government formulates the laws. Government decides how complicated it is to read for the civil people. And so do you have the intention to offer your services to government, or to change the government to make the laws easier, or maybe have a direct influence on how laws are produced? Because, of course, you develop a certain pressure on government by your service, because of your service tells the people which laws they should use for reaching their efforts. And so what is your relationship to government with your service?
Yeah, well, I try to be a good citizen. But it's different in each jurisdiction. So that's an excellent question. I think let me take it apart in a few different ways. If you look at the number of contracts, I mentioned some of the numbers that we help people with, and then you combine that with the number of cases and controversies that are rolling through Rocket Lawyer any given day, it's already a pretty big legal system. It's all private. So in the first instance, I think our relationship with government is reflecting the fact that legal system's broken. It doesn't work. And those who rely on it typically are subject to extraordinary cost and long delay. In civil litigation, everywhere, it takes a long time to get justice and a lot of expense. In terms of criminal matters, same thing. And so I think people are increasingly, and companies are increasingly turning to private solutions. And again, you asked an excellent question. In the United States, we've had for some time a move on the part of the courts to validate private solutions, private dispute resolution, arbitration, for example. The Supreme Court in AT&T v. Concepcion a few years ago really made it clear that this Supreme Court, and again I'm talking about the United States, was going to really be a friend to arbitration, even mass arbitration, at the expense of individuals necessarily their right to class action lawsuits. So I'm getting very legal technical, but that's another thing I'm going to say. You know, I'm a lawyer. There have been a lot of legal tech startups and whatnot. When I try to give these entrepreneurs a little bit of advice from the scar tissue, because I fail every day at this. This is hard, and I've screwed up a lot of stuff. But typically, when we've fallen down and managed to get ourselves back up again, it's remembering about law, that the software is for law, it's for justice, and the fact that, you know, I can step back and put my hat on as an attorney and try to parse through some of these user experience software business decisions, but again with the hat on as an attorney, actually I believe has inured to the benefit of Rocket Lawyer. So the short answer to your question is, in places where government is supportive of private dispute resolution, those are good opportunities for our platform to, I think, deliver a private brand of justice that's actually much more just, because folks can't afford the other system. The long system, it just stacks up where whoever's got the most money can delay things and win, and we all know that. So that's one. We have done some initial experiments with the American Bar Association, which is quasi-government. And those are exciting for me because I do think there's a role for bar associations to play in all of this. And so I think we'll continue to experiment a little bit more like that. We've done some similar things in the UK, working with regulators there to try to... UK has been at the forefront of liberalizing some of the practice rules for UK attorneys, and I'm proud that we have worked with the SRA in the UK as well on trying some different innovations out. So it depends, you know, place by place, what government's approach is to this sort of stuff. Great question.
The next question here, Georg.
Yeah, Charlie. Okay. Now, since you're at a business school, I'd like to understand the business model a bit better. So from the cost side, actually, yeah, how do you work? Do you work with your own lawyers? Do you use external lawyers that come in per case? Do you use more the tech side, you know, automated maybe making of documents? Mm-hmm. And from the revenue side, if I was a customer with you, would I have to pay lump sum? Would I have to pay per document? Would I have to pay per case? Just could you elaborate a little bit on the business model?
Absolutely. The core business model, the core economic promise that we make with our customers is the exact same as Amazon Prime or Netflix. Exact same. Your first legal document is free. After that, if you stay on with us in a membership, then you have access to the whole library of documents, just like the whole library of movies. And it's the way it works. And then you also have, similar to Amazon.
Let me interrupt. It's a rating too. So you have 5-star legal documents and 3-star legal documents,
exactly.
Like as movies.
The lawyers are rated, not the documents.
Okay, the
documents
lawyers,
are all
not the documents. Okay,
5-star, fantastic.
Okay.
But people can actually comment and lots of that because you asked this question too. The attorneys actually adopt the documents and the content. It's user-generated content, and so when you go look at the documents, you'll see that the attorneys who've contributed to them. So the scale actually makes everything really, really accurate, much more accurate, again, frankly, than than any given lawyer could be with their library, because again, that library is not getting used by as many people, and it doesn't have as many colleagues who also are looking at it, right? And so there's a contribution cycle. We call them contributors, and you can actually see in the documents who the attorney contributors to the documents are. The next part of the business model, the member benefits. So as a member to a Rocket Lawyer account, you get unlimited legal documents, which comes in really handy for small businesses who do the same kinds of documents over and over again. Then you get attorney advice. So you get unlimited consultations with an attorney by phone. So as part of your membership, you also then, when you need to hire a lawyer to represent you, all of the attorneys in our network have agreed to reduced fee schedule. And so you have complete price transparency. You can see every lawyer in our network has a web profile and we really pioneered that. I'm very proud of it. When we started, you would look in Memphis, Tennessee, or wherever, and you go, you had no idea how much lawyers cost, because they didn't put their prices in the yellow pages, right, in the phone directory. The prices weren't there. The prices are on Rocket Lawyer. And so they post, here's how much I charge normally, just like on Amazon. And for Prime members, for Rocket Lawyer members, I charge this much, which is less. And lawyers like Jeremy and lots of others I can mention have built wonderful businesses, being more transparent in terms of cost for folks. Mm-hmm. So that's the basic model. Of course, there's different. We do have hundreds of enterprise customers now, and so there's a different pricing model for the big companies, but it's actually at its core the same. The big company pays an annual subscription price for all their employees to have access. And then they have access to everything and the same model, and it's become quite a popular employee benefit.
Okay.
So,
Carsten.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the insights you gave. I would like to follow up on the business model. I'm actually a lawyer by training, but I work in business and finance now, so I have similar questions. You want to make justice become more affordable. So, as a business person, you can, if you think about making things more affordable, you can reduce the price, which takes out the margin. And if you want to keep your margin, you can reduce the cost of delivery. So,
right.
And if you want to reduce the cost of delivery, you need to become more efficient. It didn't come to me that actually the most inefficient part is the user interface in creating justice. So the question is, what are the levers you apply to become more efficient in creating justice, as you call it? So, obviously contracts can be standardized. That's easy. There you have economies of...
Oh, it's easy now.
Then you have... you can buy books with standard contracts. So that has been known for ages. So that's a standardized contract. It's an easy lever. But conflict resolution is a different story. So how do you make conflict resolution more efficient in your model? I haven't understood that so far.
Sure. You actually, when you started going into conflict resolution, I'm gonna punt on that one for a minute and just talk about lawyers. One of the ways we make them more efficient is by setting the boundaries, the expectation boundaries. Right. The current user interface is fairly free for all. Right. You can initiate a conversation with an attorney, and sort of like right now, if I want to talk for the next hour, you'll probably be polite and you'll continue to listen to me, but I should have shut up a long time ago. With Rocket Lawyer, we set, a lot of it is just setting expectation and then exceeding the expectation that's been set. I know that sounds super simple, but tools really don't do a good job of that. And so that's the user interface. So I mentioned we pioneered the question, the Q&A format is the on-ramp into everything at Rocket Lawyer, including when you use it, every time we say, hey, do you want to ask a lawyer a question? That's a 600 character question, 600 characters. So it's basically 5 tweets, right? And that's all you get. You don't get more than that. And the lawyer only has to reply back with a 1,200 character response. So that they can do it like you could, if the other lawyers, if they were in our network, while I'm talking right now, giving you the answer, they could go, oh, I know this, and boom, and they've got another potential client because they can type 1,200 characters on their thumbs. That's the entire expectation with the initial interaction with the Rocket Lawyer customer. So for $40 or £25 or €30 potentially, they can actually do that and make a business out of it. In terms of conflict resolution, typically the way that it works is, again, they're using the same user interface cycle. We actually do operate a call center. We set up scheduled appointments with our attorneys through all of their representation of our clients. We divide those interactions into 15-minute increments. Lots of lawyers, bill at 6-minute increments, but what they're actually trying to do is drag it on and bill you more. They're billing in 6-minute increments, but they're not really the actual workflow isn't divided into the 6-minute increments. It's very freeform. Not so with us. We work hard with our lawyers to make it a very efficient for them to understand the consumer's expectation in this interaction is 15 minutes or 30 minutes or what have you. And that's how long the interaction lasts. It turns out people are much more satisfied with that kind of an experience. Business, back to being at a business school, even when I was, washing windows and pumping gas, if I would come up initially to somebody and I would say, hey, why don't I check your oil? Why don't I do this or that? And they'd say, yes, please do that. What they were really telling me is, and if you find something, I'll pay for it. And if they don't want me to find that they need a new filter or they need something is wrong with their car, they'll just say, no, don't even go under there right now. So once you get the expectation, where I'll wrap up is just, I've found business to be really about exceeding expectations. And as long as you're doing that, and that's what our software is really intended to help attorneys exceed expectations, again, very much taking into account margin. If you don't do that, that's where we've had failures, of course, as everyone has. But overall, we've managed to make a go of it by setting and exceeding expectations.
Let me follow up to your answer. Exceeding expectations. In Germany, when we discuss about legal services, it's often a discussion about quality of legal services. I was over 10 years member of a supervisory board of a legal database provider, and we had a lot of discussions about quality. How can we assure quality and so on? What are your processes? What are the mechanisms of Rocket Lawyer in assuring the quality of your service, the quality of the legal advice you give, the quality of the documents your customers are using?
Yeah, Martin, I love that question. I really
Typical
do.
German question, of course, but you're now here in Berlin.
I love that question. The first thing is scale. So we were, when we were tiny at the very beginning, actually, let me restart. I started the company, one of the things when I started the company, I started by buying an existing software product. It was actually sold in CDs. Are you familiar with Intuit? So it was a product that Intuit had owned. Previously, they're the makers of TurboTax. And they didn't really know what to do with it. They sold it. I bought it from a party that they had sold it to. And it was a CD full of legal forms, et cetera. And so that was the initial starting point for Rocket Lawyer. Of course, it was not online. That was my idea, to take it online. But one of the things that was attractive about it was this particular software product had been in the market already for 10 years. So people had lived, died, been through probate on those wills, which gave me comfort. People had made thousands of contracts already with the basic documents, had been through disputes, etc., because you never know how good a contract is until it's been litigated many times. And so initially, that was one of the things that gave me confidence to buy this product and to make it the foundation, the starting point for the internet service that I wanted to build. So quality is not a trivial thing, especially in law. You're absolutely right. I'm going to say this and then stop, and then because I can go on and continue with it. But the best way with software to ensure quality is scale, volume. And so today I gave you a sense of the scale. If there were quality problems with those documents, you would know it, because literally we have really tiny, I mean, less than that, one hand in the last 9 years, right? And it's just scope and scale. While we do this meeting, there's going to be like 1,000 documents created, and every time people do it, they can comment on it, contribute, make it better. And so scale is where you get, with software and computers, is where you get quality. The more you do the computation, the better you get at doing it, et cetera. So I'll stop with that's really the answer is okay. Scale. Mm-hmm. I can do more.
Not rating or...
Again, getting into, it's the same thing. So yes, we have, those are at the margins. So yes, we ask for ratings, reviews on those attorneys. We don't publish them, by the way. I have no interest in telling people somebody's a bad lawyer. Who cares? Just they don't want to work with that person anymore, and so I make sure that they don't. But what people want is they know at Rocket Lawyer they're going to get a great lawyer. So we do feedback and ratings and so forth for that reason. What really helps, though, is when, as people are thumbs up, thumbs down, the answers, right, the advice that they get, was this helpful or not? Because then that's where we can go through and we can look at the advice and we can start to provide automatically some of that content. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we do have all those systems in place, but at the end of the day, with all those systems, what matters is scale. And in Germany right now, when you look at the front office side of things, there really isn't a service like ours with scale. And that's where the quality problem is at its peak. Mm. It's one of the reasons when we entered the European market, we partnered with another company, an existing 170-year-old European legal publisher called ELS, again to solve some of that quality problem, in that ELS has lots of content already that's been in the market, people have used it, et cetera. So that scale point is a really important one.
Okay, I have two more questions. The lady in the last row and the lady in the top line. Please, you can. Okay, this way around, no problem.
You spoke about scalability. I work myself in IT governance, and I guess especially in IT governance, we also have same issues with scalability of, my side is more IT rather than governance. And I think not every solution is scalable. And I think especially governance as law is not very scalable unless, of course there are certain parts are scalable. And my question is mostly about, if I understand you correctly, it means that you reach the level of scalability and you think that your business or your solution can be applied anywhere, any lawyer basically can be onboarded. And whether you have already faced with issues like we cannot onboard this lawyer because this and this issues, or this country doesn't provide certain business models for us, or there are certain obstacles that we cannot overcome with our current front end. Because I think in Germany we would have such issues that front ends should look this and this way, and customers are gonna look for this and this picture, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. We'll find out when we start to deliver the service here, which I look forward to being soon. I think at the end of the day, German people do have these problems that other people around the world that we've worked with have, in terms of the price being unaffordable for them, and the user experiences do have regional, local differences for sure, but at its core, what we offer has translated very well country by country. It really has. I think while there may be slight differences, the core where people want... I want to respond to something here as part of your answer. And the way our documentation platform works, it's not legal forms, right? You don't like download. We don't have any downloadable legal forms or whatsoever. You go in and you tell us about yourself. You answer simple questions about yourself, your situation, and we assemble the right documentation for you based on what you told us about yourself. And then we have lawyers review it, right, and deliver professional advice around it at a price that you can afford. So that basic workflow has been pretty successful everywhere so far. So I hope it'll work here. I could be wrong.
Okay, thank you, Charlie. I think we have two more questions or three more questions, and then I think we should stick to the time and finish the discussion. Now it's your turn.
I have a question on your front office solution, meaning providing legal advice to non-lawyers, so to households, customers, etc. I imagine it should be a challenge to elicit all the facts that are relevant for a case. So how do you manage it? I understand you start your interaction with a very limited text that is not structured. And what if your customer does not provide the relevant facts?
Right, yeah. So the whole system is designed to actually be an easy, in fact, we want it to be the easiest way to get started with legal services that there is, period. But it's certainly not intended it's never been intended to replace consultation with an attorney. In fact, what it's intended to do is to make it much easier to engage in that consultation. So the attorney consultation is really still very critical to the way that Rocket Lawyer works. And so while you'll start with creating documentation or a short question and a short answer, if you continue, you graduate into a direct conversation.
Okay, thank you. Please. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I have a more general question. I think I used lots of lawyers in my life. I was a banker, now I'm a real estate agent, and one of the best tippers that I work with are lawyers and other professional people, like accountants, for example. How are you consumerizing that on your platform? Is that any way going on? Because a lot of the times I'll start with some conversation with a lawyer and he'll end up ending telling me, go to this attorney, go to this accountant, he will explain this much better. How does that work?
So who was I talking to? These guys right up here. See? this is a great idea for something extra to put on top, right? We don't do that right now. That's offline. But and I swear we've never met before, and I did not plan. But one of the things that I get excited about with doing talks like this is when people find things that we don't do, because I didn't really talk a lot about it or at all. We're developing APIs and working with partners to make it possible for them to leverage Rocket Lawyer and then to do additional services, additional things. So you just described an app that we don't have. But when I was a lawyer, I used to generate lots of business for insurance brokers and real estate agents, and they used to take me to football games and the whole deal, because when I'd incorporate a company as their lawyer, then they needed office space. To get office space, you need insurance. You need an insurance certificate. If you're going to hire somebody, now you need workers' comp insurance, and so on and on and on. And so that's a wonderful additional line of business for us that, quite frankly, I don't think we'll do anytime soon. But I would explore that with a partner and make it possible for them to potentially offer that. So I would sort of wrap it up with that. There are, I think, enormous entrepreneurial opportunities around legal tech. I think we are on top of one of them, which is making it easy for people to create documents, incorporate businesses, get legal advice. That's what we do. There's thousands more great ideas that we never thought of, and we're not going to, because we're much more likely to spend our time, taking the Big Mac, that we created, our McDonald's restaurant that is Rocket Lawyer, and I don't mind saying that because it's for regular people, and taking that to the next place, India, you name it, then to go fix that problem you just talked about. But boy, if you want to fix it, get in touch with me and tell me, and we might be able to do it together.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, please, the lady in the back row. So.
Can you talk like me? Where are you from? All right.
Can you hear me? Oh, great. So I'm a CPA based out of Minneapolis. Well, based out of here, but on a computer. At first, when you started your conversation, I was a little skeptical about quality. And now my curiosity is turned more towards, are your hopes to retain dollars within Rocket Lawyer, or are you losing some of that through attrition because of the referrals to the attorneys that are working underneath this umbrella? So if the process starts within Rocket Lawyer, let's say, Q&A, you generate a form, but then now you've got an attorney with their eyes on it. Are you, what's the cost model there? Are you giving commissions to these attorneys? Do they work on a more pro bono because it's advertising for their own firm? At some point, do these people cross a line or graduate because of complexity to working entirely with this attorney? Or how are those, where do the dollars move with your customer base?
Yeah, so it's really straightforward. The customer pays us a monthly membership fee. It's $40, 25 pounds, 30 euro. And so they pay us that monthly membership fee. And in exchange, they get the documents service, they get software, so they can really run their business or their family with making sure they have, for a business, you have your incorporation documents, your contracts, business letters, all that stuff they get. For a family, you get your estate planning or childcare, things like that. So they get all of that. They can also store we encourage it, so they can either take pictures, scan, or upload important documents and store them in the cloud for safekeeping. We call it the file safekeeper. they get that for their subscription. So they get lots of good software stuff, a library, answers to questions, etc. So they get a lot of good stuff for that membership. Importantly, they get, as I mentioned, discounts on attorney fees. So if they need to hire a lawyer, they're going to get the lawyer at a significant, in the US, it's 40% off the lawyer's hourly rate. In the UK, it's 30% off the lawyer's hourly rate. And in France, it's also 30% off the hourly rate. Spain and Netherlands, same thing. And so then if the attorney only has two responsibilities to Rocket Lawyer. When we ask people what they like and then what they don't like about interacting with lawyers, what they don't like is they cost too much, they're not responsive. I can't get a hold of them when I need to. The lawyers on the network operate under our terms of service in terms of response time. They are members of the bar in good standing. They maintain malpractice insurance. They have no disciplinary action against them. We guarantee all of those things, and they agree to our fee schedule. And that's it. They get to keep every dollar that they earn from our users. And so that's the economic relationship, and it's worked very well. So the old model where lawyers pay lead fees and advertising fees and all that kind of stuff, that model is in conflict with bringing costs down. Because if I'm just making my money off of lawyer advertising, which is what the first generation of these sites did, well, why do I want that lawyer to charge less? What do I care? What I care about is a lawyer pays me $10,000 a year, $10,000 a year or whatever. So I find that attorney advertising model to be counter to our mission. We don't do it.
Okay, Charley, I would like to close the Q&A session with one question from me. 9 years ago, you founded Rocket Lawyer in the United States, San Francisco, and I think 4 or 5 years ago, you came over the Atlantic to the UK. And now,
5 years ago, yeah.
5 years ago, you are active in a lot of, or a group of European countries. What are the major differences between the customers in the United States and in Europe? Are there major differences?
There aren't so far. And now we've made no pretense about, look, I don't think we're, I don't have enough hubris, I hope not, to think, look, we figured everything out for everybody. But there's a big group of people everywhere for whom the idea of taking more charge of things for themselves at a lower cost is really a desperate need, and I mean a desperate need. And those folks are the ones that have found us in the UK, in France already, in the other markets we're in. I think there's probably millions of people in that situation here. And once we give them, the right user interface to solve that problem, but it's the basic problem. Again, I don't really look at this thing like macro. I look at it as much as I can find, Brendan, Cassandra getting married, or, the lawyer like Jeremy, So I look forward to getting to know people better here, and my team getting to know people better here. And we'll start small like we always do, but once we start to solve people's problems, then on the business side of things, are there millions of people with problems like that? And then you scale it. But the starting point is always solving somebody's problem and really fixing it for them, and then scale out there. I think a lot of times with business, people look at it and, I've never made a business plan in my life, not once. Story ended on that.
Okay, thank you very much. So once again, thank you very much to Charley Moore for his presentation. we are very happy to have you here, and I think you have some more times for individual questions. And thank you very much to the audience. Thank you very much that you have spent the time on this beautiful Berlin summer day here in this room. And now I wish you a wonderful Berlin summer evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.